What are my 5 biggest worries when it comes to Gophers football in 2024? We're diving into that, and we've got 3 portal ads across the major sports. We're talking about it today.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
What up, y'all? You are listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today, we've got some good news for the Gophers in the transfer portal as far as new additions in both the football and the basketball side of things. And we're going to cover my 5 biggest worries with Gophers football in this upcoming season. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of your daily Gophers content. And on top of that, be sure to hit the like button so others can find the show. Now, let's dive in. I want to get straight to it. Let's do it. Now, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest worries for the Gophers football team in 2024. And I'm kicking it off with number 1. Number 1 is they have a ton of experience and starters, and you love to see that. That is not the worry itself, but can those players take it up a notch and produce at a star level? Can those players produce at an all-conference type level? That is going to be important if this Gophers team wants to hit its best maximum capacity or maximum the best, highest attainable ceiling on this season. So overall, you've got 3 all-conference players back on this roster. You've got Daniel Jackson, you've got Ariante Urser, you've got Dragon Kesich. Those 3 players are back, and hopefully they are all producing in that all Big Ten level once again. But can the honorable mentions kick it up a step? Can they get up into that territory of being one of the best players in the conference? Or can some of the younger players put themselves on the verge in that honorable mention category? If everybody can start to take bigger steps up, especially the players you need to step up long term and be the next faces of this program, the time is now to get that happening. So can Minnesota get that to happen? Can your honorable mentions like Justin Wally, who had a struggle year on and off last year, can he get back to an all Big Ten type player? Can Darius Taylor stay healthy and get to the all Big Ten teams? Can Quinn Carroll put his name in there, moving into the inside as a guard? Can Danny Strigout, Josh Joyner, both of them making a honorable mention team, can they put their names into the all conference type players? That's going to be the biggest question. Cody Lindenberg, can he stay healthy enough to get there? Max Brosmer, can he be a big enough difference to get into the conversation? Jack Henderson, you see what I'm saying? These players that are right on the verge, right on the cusp, give a lot of production, but can they take that production to an all-conference type level? Because if you can get 8 people across, or let's go 6 people across the all-conference teams, you're probably having a very good season. If you can get 6 people and 6 honorable mentions, that's 12 players across your 22 starters getting into the conversation of an all-conference player. That is a team that likely had a very great year. So if the Gophers can step it up in that capacity, that will be a good thing. But if they can't, and if they don't have more than the 3 players or even less than the 3 players step up to the all-conference type level and don't produce at a star or an all-conference level, then this Gophers team could struggle even with experience and starters back. Now, my worry number 2 is, can the defense get back on track? I see the speed that Coach Heatherman has been talking about and the guys are playing with early in the spring, and it is present and it is showing itself. But hopefully that translates to the actual games on Saturdays under the lights. More sacks, more turnovers, more chaos, more third down stops, shorter stints on the field, maintaining leads. If those things can happen, we're on a good pace. But if that defense can't get back on track, then we could be in some trouble real quick. Now, that being said, Minnesota had its worst year defensively in its last 4 years last season. So hopefully they can just get even a tick above better than that But if they can get back into that top 25, top 20 type of defense, well, then that is when Minnesota is putting their name into the conversation, being more of a sleeper in the conference and making some noise. So hopefully they can do that, but it's hard to gauge how truly impactful the defense will be based on solely spring practices. So that's a worry I have, is will it carry over to actual games? Now, my worry number 3, can Minnesota stay healthy? Because last year was plagued by injuries on both sides of the ball, key injuries all over the field. Cody Lindenberg, Justin Wally had issues with injuries on and off throughout the season. Multiple linebackers. We were down to like a true freshman starting in a game late in the season. We had lots of injuries all over the defense, and you flip to the offense. We got to our 5th string running back at one point in that season. That tells you this team was banged up. And then you come in over to the spring session, and I've been telling you in these spring practices, a ton of players, 14, 15, 20 players that are not participating in practices because of injury. So we've seen the injuries from last season all over this team. We've seen the injuries all over this team in the spring. Can Minnesota avoid anything major for yet another season overall? They have to hope, pray, cross your fingers, especially at some of these key positions, because there are some shallow rooms in this Minnesota room. So hopefully they don't get too injured. Hopefully they can stay healthy. That is my worry number 3. Worry number 4 is, can this Gophers offense find balance? Now, I don't know how many times we've said on the show, can the offense find balance? Will the offense find balance? Can we get the passing game going? I've said it so many times, I feel like I'm driving myself crazy. And we've heard about this quarterback, and we've gotten excited about this quarterback, but we've been excited about quarterbacks before. We've seen the wide receiver names that are in this room and the young guys stepping up and Daniel Jackson balling out. We've seen all of that. But can Minnesota actually find a relevant passing game once again like 2019 when the lights are bright? Or will it go back to default of the last 4 seasons where they just run the ball because they can't really afford to do anything else? They can't find the yardage. They can't find the consistency to make it happen. And all of a sudden, this Gophers team is struggling to score. They're struggling to put points on the board. They're struggling to move the field. They're going 3 and outs. They're getting punts. They're getting burned on defense because the defense is gassed. If we go down that route again, it's not going to be pretty. So that is worry number 4, is can this offense find some actual balance? And my final worry on the season is that interior defensive line right now. It still scares me. Devin Eastern is a beast. Plain and simple. He could have a massive year for the Gophers this year, and I truly hope he does. I think he will. But can Minnesota fill that interior defensive line room with another big addition before the fall? Maybe 2 big additions. That would be awesome, to get players that can rotate in and be effective and take the pressure off of Devin Eastern, or create more chaos with him like Kyler Bott and Devin Eastern had moments of last season. Because this is a position that fans overlook, plain and simple. Nobody thinks about the defensive tackles and the interior defensive line often, but when they have great production and when they create an interior pass rush and push the quarterback out of the pocket into his uncomfortable zone and get your edge rushers home to the quarterback quicker, that is what takes a difference, or that's what the difference is between good defenses and elite defenses. And if the Gophers want to have an elite defense, which you need in the Big Ten Conference to have long-term success, then they're going to need some interior defensive pressure. And so that means possibly adding 1 or 2 more names from the transfer portal. So will Minnesota add talent, or will it be more makeshift, piecemeal, plug and play type play across from Devin Eastern? That's a question, a worry I have heading into the season. So those are my 5 worries. If you have other ones, let me know them down in the comments. I would love to know where I might be not thinking of it. Hopefully there's not too many more. Hopefully we're on the same page there. But overall, the Gophers have some upside. They can be a sleeper team that many people will overlook, but they have to get past these 5 worries to get there. Now, on the plus side, Minnesota Gophers football team is bringing in 2 new names. They brought them in from the transfer portal, one coming from a major program. We're going to dive into that coming up next. First, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now is the best time to get in on the action. You're talking about NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, baseball's in swing, golf is going, and you know what? FanDuel is the best place to be and bet on every game. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. So all you got to do is go and place any bet, win or lose, and you're getting $150 in bonus bucks guaranteed. Now, bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, slam dunks, and it's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. I wouldn't bet on the Celtics right now because I am just ticked that they lost to the Miami Heat in game 2 without Jimmy Butler. I'm salty about it, but I'm recording this right after that game, so I'm a little heated right now. But overall, I would not have bet on the Celtics to lose this game. But I did see something that said you could bet on the Celtics winning every home game in the playoffs, and I definitely would have bet against that one regardless of before this loss happened. And definitely if you would have hit that right away, you would have won and then some. So go over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. What are you waiting for? Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon and join America's #1 sportsbook over at FanDuel, official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about the 2 new additions coming from the transfer portal for the men's football team. I guess there's only one football team, but regardless, we're going to talk about a quarterback addition first in Dylan Wittke. He was a freshman last year with Virginia Tech, red shirt on the year, didn't have any in-game action, but he's 6'1", 201 pounds, coming from Buford, Georgia. Now, Georgia is a really good prospect state to be in when it comes to top-notch high school prospects, and Buford is a great high school down in Georgia, so definitely a good program he comes from. He only had 1 year as a starter, and you can't really find too much on his stats in that game, but he had offers from Virginia Tech and Colorado as his Power 5 offers. Aside from that, he had offers from a lot of quality G5 schools that want to throw the rock, including Liberty, FAU, App State, Arkansas State, Georgia State, just to name a few. He also had one from Memphis. So overall, some G5 powerhouses along with 2 Power 5 schools. But overall, we haven't seen much from him. He wasn't a huge producer in high school. And so it's really a big question mark. It's just another guy who could potentially work in the background and see what he's got, but there's no proven ability so far at the collegiate level. Now, he was battling for a backup position with Virginia Tech with another redshirt freshman, and he ended up losing that battle to Pop Watson behind Kyron Jones, who will be the starter for Virginia Tech next season. So overall, like I said, he was only a starter in high school for 1 year, and he had limited stats in that season from what I could see on Max Preps. 943 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 60% completion percentage. Those numbers definitely don't jump off the page for me, so I am curious to know what really stands out. His mechanics looked a little off. He had some off platform throws, but overall, I don't know if it was more so because of the elite high school that he went to, along with being a starter there and showing some flashes or what have you, but there should be some potential, and hopefully he can work into the background. Now, like I said, this adds a 3rd scholarship quarterback to this room. There definitely is a need still in this room. I think you still have to add at least 1 more scholarship quarterback into this quarterback room, someone to build in the background. That is what we see with Dylan Wittke with this program. But to be honest, I don't even think his name is one that will compete with Drake Lindsay for even the backup job. So we need someone with a little bit more experience for a 4th scholarship QB. I still think the Gophers are going to get aggressive and add 1 more quarterback in the portal if they can. And then the second player that we added into the portal, or from the portal, is Tyler Williams, another player from that 2023 prospect class. He was a redshirt freshman last year, or he was a true freshman and ended up redshirting last season. He was the number 17 wide receiver overall in that class of 2023, and he was with the Georgia Bulldogs last year. The Georgia Bulldogs that were number 1 for almost the entire season, the Georgia Bulldogs that were looking to try and be 3-time champions. He did see action in 2 games, but overall he ended up redshirting. Now, he is a name that I think probably works in the background this year, but if the talent shows out and wins out, then maybe he could claw his way onto the field in some capacity. But this seems to be a move for 2025. This seems to be a move where you want to have some of these young guys step into those starter roles once your Daniel Jackson, Elijah Spencers have left the program. Now, Brockington has his job kind of locked up for the 2025 season as long as he stays with the Gophers. But this is pushing Kendrick Lanier, Nuke Hayes, TJ McWilliams, Tyler Williams to all step up alongside Brockington and who will win those starter battles. Now, this addition gives me a feeling that we could see at least one of those names potentially hit the transfer portal next year if snaps aren't seen. Now, in high school, he had offers to Georgia, Miami, Clemson, Texas A&M, and more. He had 40 offers overall, so he had a lot of schools, programs after him. Now, obviously, the talent is present because he was with one of the best programs in the country over the last decade in the Georgia Bulldogs. And it initially, them bringing him in just shows you how much he has upside-wise and talent-wise in that wide receiver room. So if that talent can be realized, he could be a special player for the Gophers. On top of that, he has the size, 6'3", 205 pounds. He could go up there and win the jump ball. If he can find ways to separate, he could be a really big threat for the Gophers. Now, both of these players I have mentioned have 4 years of eligibility still, so they are both longer-term plays for the Gophers moving forward. Definitely nice additions, and I don't think the Gophers are done yet, so definitely hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of the updates on the latest additions that are yet to come. Now, the transfer portal closes in 6 days. So May 1st is going to be the day where players can no longer enter their name into the portal and have immediate eligibility. So that means after we hit May 1st, you might see some more action going down as far as where players start to land and find their new homes. Now, just because the portal closes as far as entering your name, you can still pick a new school up through the fall. So you've got a lot of time there. But now, personally, I think a lot of these teams are going to want to have their players and their roster kind of sorted out by the end of May. So I think you'll see a lot of the movement done by then. But I think the Gophers are going to be looking for another quarterback and potentially some interior defensive line. And we'll see what else they try to add, and we'll have it covered for you here at Locked On Golden Gophers. Now, to close today's show, we're moving it over to men's hoops. They have a new addition from the Oregon Ducks and a couple players on the list to target. We're going to dive into all of that coming up next. First off, let's talk about our friends over at Monopoly Go, because you know what? We've all been there either as a player or a fan. It's halftime. The scoreboard's not looking too good and you're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out the win. Then you dig deep, you lift your head up and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game. And then you pull off some bank heists. You take as much of your friends' money as you possibly can. And that is what you can do over on the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. It lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. And it's Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your friends. And there's so much to do. You can look at your dynamic Monopoly boards, countless of them. On top of that, you can make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and you can do classic things like charge players rent for iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your face in the game, and download Monopoly Go now for free over on the App Store and the Google Play Store. And while we're at it, let's talk about the best ticketing app out there, and that is none other than Gametime. Now, Gametime is the place to be, and they are even an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to that first pitch. Now, they have last-minute deals that you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, but not just that. Concerts, theater events, comedy clubs, what have you, they've got you covered over at Gametime. On top of that, you have the all-in pricing feature where you can toggle that and see it with no surprise fees and the lowest price guaranteed, where Gametime will credit you with 110% of the difference if their price isn't the lowest for you. So definitely check out Gametime and download the app. Create an account today and then use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Gametime app, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDON college for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about men's hoops to wrap this one up. They added a new player in Brennan Rigsby from the Oregon Ducks. So what do they still need beyond him? We're going to dive into that. But first, let's cover what Brennan Rigsby brings to this team. Now, he played in 36 games last season. In 6 of those games, he scored double figures. So he isn't a huge scoring threat, but he has different elements that can be helpful for this Gophers team. Now, he averaged 6.6 or 6.1 points per game, 2.7 rebounds per game, shot the ball 40% from the field and 35% from deep. So he can shoot the ball, especially from the 3-point line. He has some consistency there. And he played in 36 games, and he made 13 starts, averaging 22 minutes a game. Now, the truth is, if you look at the box score, it's not going to wow you. It's not going to make you go, oh, this dude is a stud. But he can attack off the dribble. I'm not sure how he is defensively, but I like him as maybe the 6th or 7th best player on this team to come off the bench and produce in waves and be able to knock down the 3 ball and maybe spark some momentum for this team. But I'm not sure I love it as a potential starter type. Now, I could be wrong there, and if I am, I will absolutely give him credit, eat crow, and be excited for this Gophers team. But I think overall, they still need a true point guard out of this portal. Now, I'm sure there's tons of options, especially from the lower conference schools that would love to be in the conversation. And if we've seen anything from Ben Johnson, we've seen he's found a way to find some elite point guard play coming from those lower conference schools. Talon Cooper, Elijah Hawkins are 2 just in the last 2 years that have shown their way in finding facilitating guards that can handle this offense. On top of that, you've got Isaac Asuma waiting in the background or coming in as a true freshman. Maybe he comes in and starts right away. Maybe he's that dynamic. We saw Cam Christie come in pretty early and make a big impact right away. So maybe Isaac Asuma can do the same. But if he's not ready to go full speed at that Big Ten level, or if he needs to, dip his toes into the water a little bit slower, then hopefully the Gophers can prioritize getting another point guard in here from the transfer portal. Now, not just point guards, but names that Minnesota is targeting still. Ken Evans, we've mentioned him on the show. He is from Jackson State. He's more of a 2 guard, but he's the reigning SWAC player of the year, averaging 18.8 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, and 2.9 assists per game. He's only got 1 year of eligibility left, but he's a wing player who can play the 2 or the 3, and he shot nearly 40% from 3 last year at 39.2%. 1-to-1 turnover ratio is the assist to turnover ratio is the only thing you don't love about him, but he produced at elite numbers against good teams. Memphis, Mizzou, Gonzaga, Northwestern. He had 18 or more points against all of those schools while playing with Jackson State. Now, another player to know is Aiden Wright from Drake. He has 1 year of eligibility left as well. He's more of a combo guard, a scoring, shooting guard type, 14.1 points per game, 2.3 rebounds per game, 46% from the floor with a 40% 3-point clip. So he can shoot the rock, but he started 35 games last year, and only 8 of those games did he score single-digit points. So he put up a ton of points for his team with the Drake Bulldogs last season. He would be an awesome scoring guard for this team. Morsek is a player that Minnesota recently has gotten interested in. 2 years of eligibility left from Hawaii. He's a 7'1" center, 225 pounds. Now, his stats will not wow you, but he's a player with multiple years of eligibility you could hope could be a rotational big for you and start to put it together, be a defensive threat. And he had 1.1 blocks per game last season, 4 points per game, 3 rebounds per game. You would hope he can get more boards if he is to come this way, but overall he only averaged about 10 minutes per game in 29 games. So if his minutes tick up to around 15 or so, you should see those numbers all tick up as well. Now, 2 more names I want to list. One we've talked about before, one we haven't. The first is Trey Edmonds from UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio. He's a wing player who started 32 games for them last year, and he has 1 year of eligibility left. He averaged 7 points, 5.8 rebounds. A wing player, like I said, he's a poor free throw shooter, 44%, so that's definitely a flaw. He cannot shoot the 3 ball, so he doesn't really space the floor, which you kind of need in this offense with how much they want to move the ball. But he shot 56% from the floor. So that was huge for his team. And hopefully that would carry over if he were to come and be a Golden Gopher. But he is definitely a name that would be lower on my list of these guys. And then the final one is Seydou Traore. We've talked about him from Manhattan. 3 years of eligibility left. He played as a true freshman last year, averaged 11 points almost 12 points a game, 8.2 rebounds per game, shot 43% from the field. Now, he's not consistent as a three-point shooter, but he did shoot 25.6% from deep, but he can hit it. He proved that he can hit it, whether it's a step back, whether it's catch and shoot, he can knock it down. Now, he's 6'7" and athletic. He's probably better suited to play the 4, but he could also play the 3 at times. He has good passing vision, averaged up 1.3 blocks per game, so another defensive presence player, and he's really good in transition, but he's not the best pull-up shooter or the best pull-up off the dribble type player. So those are the names to keep in mind, keep watch for, because the Gophers have been in touch with each of those players. We'll see who else is of interest, what point guards get onto this list, and more, and we'll keep you posted here at Locked On Golden Gophers. But I will see y'all tomorrow, where we'll dive into another episode of your favorite daily Gophers content here at Locked On Golden Gophers. Until then, row the boat, Sky Imago Gophers, as always, and don't forget to subscribe.